think. The reason I point you to looking at yourself, self-awareness is the key to all change. If you don't know where you're at, you have no idea to know where you need to go. It's the roadmap to living a full life. It's a roadmap to full health. So if I don't ever ask the question, where am I? How in the world can I expect to get to a better place? And not only are you wanting to help your patient, you need to be modeling it. You want to be modeling that, number one, because you want a full, happy life. But also, how can you expect anyone else to be taking and working on their areas when you don't even understand it because you're not doing it? It's hard to talk about something you don't get yourself. Okay, real quickly, everyone got themselves rated? Good, flat, nail? I want you just at your tables, just to real quickly say, I've got 2 lows, a flat, and a nail. You know, whatever it is, 3 goods, 1 flat. So just real quickly, that's all you say, 2 nail, whatever it is. Y'all make it around the table? Okay. Okay, I want to show of hands, how many of you had 4 good tires? Oh, over here, 4 good ones. It's like, we don't believe you. We don't believe you. That's what I'm always going to say. But no, it means that you know you could get low and you're still trying to bring the good in. Do y'all see the proportion? That means they actually can get in their car and be assured they're going to probably get there. All the rest of us are going, oh my gosh, how do I expect to be living my best life when don't even have the support I need? And there's no doubt, gang, that there's seasons of life where we're more, we're realistic enough to know that life isn't perfectly balanced, never has been, never will be. So I recognize that. And really, this model allows for that because it's not about having perfection. It's about always resourcing in. When it gets depleted in this area, I need a resource in that area. So that's more realistic, and that's what I want to encourage you to. Well, when scooting down our list, the models of trauma treatment. Thank goodness my profession has finally gotten new input through research on brain neurobiology and physiology, and we're starting to recognize how these 4 parts work together, but we didn't always know that. And the medical profession, just like us, would go just to treating one thing. Like, instead of, now everyone's aware cancer impacts the whole person. There was a time where no one even thought that. It's like, go to the doctor, get it worked, get the pill, be done. And there wasn't resourcing in the other circles. And yet, here's the catch. When you've had trauma, in your body, remember I talked about the 3 body memory centers? If you don't help each of those memory centers resolve and metabolize that, it can still be active months after the cancer survival was solid, because the body is still holding on to the memory. And I think a lot of us understand that logically because we've understood PTSD. You know, they're 2 years out of the war, and the sound goes off, and they're hitting the deck, and their bodies break out in a cold sweat. Why is that? Well, it's because the body memory never got worked with. So it's so important that we are helping people who have been through any kind of trauma. And medical trauma is the hardest trauma on the body because, again, you're sedated. So there's the act of sedation is traumatizing to the body because the body thinks it's going to die. Okay? So just the act of sedation is traumatic for your body, let alone incision, let alone removal and reshifting things. So you've got to allow for the body to repair from that, not just physically repair, but from the trauma of that. The traditional approach, again, as I said, just worked in one dimension. The holistic approach, which I think I've already said, really recognizes it's my whole person that experienced the onset of cancer. It is not just my body. So turning over, or at least for me it's over, to the focus of resourcing. So, for example, now I've got a person who I know, I don't guess, I don't think. Here's where you start as a professional and as a family caregiver. You start to assume my person has been impacted in all 4 areas. See, a lot of times we don't even assume that. We're not thinking about how, oh wow, they're probably really fighting this internally. And so we're just trying to, are you comfortable? Is it okay? Or we're just working with their emotions. And yet they're not sleeping, they're eating sugar, and that's keeping inflammation up. So, anytime the body is trying to heal itself and it doesn't have what it needs to heal itself, it clicks your immune system on, almost like an automatic thermostat. So the immune system clicks on because it's trying to re-regulate the body. Well, inflammation in the body is considered an attack by the body. So the body doesn't turn off. And our fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses are great and fine for the moment of a threat, but then we're designed for it to turn off. Where you see this too is someone who is anxious and is having high anxiety about their cancer. That's keeping their immune system on because it's threat. And so the whole body is experiencing the threat that the emotions are experiencing. So when I want to see my patient heal, I know I have got to get their emotions calmed down so that the immune system is not hypervigilant and it can actually focus on healing the body versus just being turned on, which wears it out. And some of us, you could have had early childhood trauma, and your system's been on since day one. It's been on, it never clicked off on the automatic thing. So that's where we want to recognize the landscape of my story. If you've always been a highly anxious person, well, that's going to tell me you had early childhood trauma and your immune system didn't get to discharge or resolve it, and it's still in it. Does that make sense? So So where we want to look is how can I support all four dimensions of my person. And I'm going to assume when I walk in that door, they need support, just like I need air in all four tires. And here are ways to look and offer resourcing and help. In the social circle, I love that they're upstairs on fourth floor working on support groups. Relationship, again, I'm faith-based. We were designed to be in relationship. Even medical science says that babies who do not have facial contact will fail to thrive. In other words, our brain can't even develop healthily without another human being. That's how we work. So none of us can recover in isolation. So if I've got a patient who I know is trying to isolate because they're going more catatonic in fear, I have got to work toward getting them back in relationship. So I'm going to get real creative on how to do that. And there's, many doors we can inch it in. Gang, even a pet is a social interaction. So it's absolutely, get that pet. And if they can't do a dog, get a turtle, get something. But create some life to where there's interaction, because our brain and our body and our spirit are designed to connect. So support groups are incredible. Like I said, pets. You can, a lot of times getting them in a learning situation, well, why don't we go take a little class in something? Because again, it's learning. Anytime you can move them up to the prefrontal cortex, learning is left brain activity, that helps get them out of their primitive brain. Remember, I said you cannot be in the primitive brain and prefrontal cortex at the same time. I love giving this illustration because it makes so much sense to people, to illustrate how true this is. 30 years ago, when they trained lifeguards to rescue drowning people, they sent them swimming out with the big raft, I'm going to save the person, the drowning person. They quit doing that. You know why? Because the drowning people were drowning the lifeguards. Okay? Because in your primitive brain, you see someone coming towards you. Now, in your prefrontal cortex, oh my gosh, someone's coming to save me. Oh, I'm going to be saved. Guess what? Your prefrontal isn't online. Your primitive's online. And so they get closer and closer. You're dying. Remember, the body is, I'm dying and I've got to live. So it uses the lifeguard as a way to push themselves up to keep air. They can't connect that this is a human, that I'm drowning. It's a means for me to live. So a lot of us, we're working either ourselves or with others, living in their primitive brain. You can get stuck in your primitive brain to where it becomes a lifestyle and you're never acting fully yourself. You're always in some version of defense. My youngest daughter lived in New York City for 4 years. And I remember when she went through my workshop on this, and I talked about survival. Again, what is threat? Anything emotionally, physically, relationally, spiritually. Well, in New York, they live in threat. They probably live in threat in their apartment, let alone outside of their apartment, okay? And here's the crazy thing, and I bet a lot of y'all know this. When you are so exhausted because it never turns off, there's a need to dissociate to get relief. Okay, big word, dissociate. We all dissociate. There's healthy dissociation, which would be intentional, and then there's unhealthy dissociation. That's when I'm out. I'm out. Well, right between the primitive brain and the midbrain, there's a little area of the brain that has the appetites in it. And there's 3 primary appetites for food, sleep, and sex. And you know what? Every one of those has a happy neurochemical attached to them. So, when people are so exhausted in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, there's no thought of getting back to be my real self, my whole self. They just want to relieve. We go right to those appetites. Why is addiction the number one thing in our society? Because 95% of all people are living a dissociated life because their bodies are not turning off. And you and I do it too. Oh, I catch myself, I'll do scrolling, Netflix binge. You know, there's many ways. Some of us are busyaholics because if I just keep moving, I won't have to think or feel. There's multiple ways we can dissociate. So you've got to recognize if you, your family, or the patient have been going through this, they're exhausted. And they are naturally going to go to dissociate. So I'm going to try to help them. I know they need relief. But I want to help resource and then help them to dissociate in an intentional way and in a healthy way to where they're in charge of getting a breather versus just, I'm out. Does that make sense? So we have to combat that. So I think I've given you a couple of good things. Watching a movie together with someone, dancing, dinner, anything with a friend is relational. Get them in relationship. You may have to get creative, but that's your goal. Now let's go down to the emotional circle. You know, when trauma hits us, it brings the most awful emotions we've ever felt. And they're horrible. And the impact of those unconsciously, we never want to feel that awful emotion again. So we're going to do anything never to feel isolated, abandoned, abused, exploited, vulnerable. Those are horrible feelings. And so last thing we want to do is feel our feelings, okay? Nobody wants to do that. It's like, are you kidding me? You're inviting me to go back to that? But here's the thing. If you don't feel it, you can't heal it. If you don't feel it, you can't heal it. And research backs me up. Don't have time to teach all that. Come to my workshop if you want to know why. But the bottom line is it can't. So you've got to help the person that you're working with begin to metabolize. And I alluded to it earlier. Let it be in the same room with them. Give honor to those emotions. But see, our fear, especially in our childhood, we couldn't handle it because we couldn't handle it as children. It was too much. So our fear is, if I got in those emotions, Carla, I don't think I'd ever get out. I feel like it sucked the life out of me and I can never recover. And I get that. But you know, God has made us to actually rebound. He has made us to restore. And our own biology does it. We have a pendulating ability to handle good and bad. Good and bad. God designed us to live in a world that is both good and bad. And I'll give you a simple, crazy way. You know, I wake up in the morning. Hey, I'm old. Guess what? I'm sore. Oh, gosh, my shoulder. Oh. Okay, so I've swung over to the bad. This is awful. Man, this is going downhill fast. And then I get up and I actually make an exceptional cup of coffee that morning. Oh, this coffee's good. Wow, I'm just savoring it. Then I go sit at my computer and open it. Oh my gosh, I forgot to write them back. So now I'm in my stress of, oh no, I've got to crank this email out. Then I go and I get a friend calls me and I have a sweet moment on the phone with them. See, I'm doing both. We are designed to be able to go back and forth. But our fear is that we're going to get stuck in the bad and we're not going to be able to get out. we're not going to be able to get out. We want to help people realize, guess what? You will get out. You're designed to get out. Your body knows how to do it. Your mind and emotions know how to do it. You've got to trust it. Got to trust that process. So we want to help them. The supports we can do, obviously you can get a counselor, because that's talking, they can give guidance on that. Hopeful self-journaling, y'all, I'm like really big on this one. And I know not everybody journals, not everybody will do that, and you can sort of bite-size it, but on our website we've got the template for this kind of thing. Hopeful self-journaling actually works with 7 points in the brain, because part of that, remember I talked about memory, we're negatively biased. We only care about the negative because the negative's what's dangerous. Well, what we can realize is that those are neural pathways that we've gotten so logged in of what danger is. You can't get rid of the old pathway, but you can carve a new pathway. And if I create a positivity bias and I start to see how things can be good, then I've got a choice. I've got a choice. I don't have to go down the always path of uh-oh. I actually could go, you know what, I can do this. I can trust this. So the 7 points of the hopeful self-journaling is carving that new path. So I want to help my people carve another way of experiencing their lives. And even I mentioned up there the gratitude exercises, and that's simple. We've also got that on the website, some things you can do. Just even, you could start out hitting reality, because life is both. You could say, hey, let's do a high-low today. Tell me your high and what's your low. Let them say it. And there's, oh, I can't think of anything good today. Well, keep going. Okay, I guess, you know, that muffin I had this morning was good. Okay, great. Well, now here's somatic, gang. Here's the somatic exercise. So they've said the muffin was great. And then I go, just savor that a minute. Think about that muffin. It really was good. Yeah, it tasted good. And you think about that, where do you feel that in your body? Actually, I sort of feel it in my heart for some reason. I feel it sort of in my chest. I said, well, just soak it in for a minute. That's all I do. But even that tiny little tweak, that's like cutting a new path. Little tiny steps do it most effectively. It's not, you got to straighten up and get a better attitude. That doesn't work. Because our brain is a brain of habit. It will push back anytime you try to do big changes. The power is in the itty-bitty. Itty-bitty. And it really is effective because it works with the design of how our brain works. So that would be the emotional circle. A couple of things out there that you may not be aware of is, of course, a lot of you probably know about EMDR, and that's working with a therapist who's trained in that. That is a psychosensory technique. The reason that one's most popular and people have heard that is because it's the most researched. I work with a lot of psychosensory techniques that I actually like better than EMDR, but they're not as well known because they haven't had the years of backup of research. But it is one to, like if they had a traumatic experience with needles, with surgery recovery, and they have images and flashbacks of that, EMDR can help take the emotional charge out of that, as some of the other techniques I'm going to point you to on my website. So that's a helpful thing. Neurofeedback. I feel bad because even though I practice now in Alabama, my husband still practices here, and I'm been up in arms about Jackson has got to get on trend with having some good helps, and part of those good helps would be neurofeedback. It helps with depression, and that's where they do the electric stimulation working with brain waves. to bring you to a positive place. So those are some things. The spiritual circle, as I said, there's some cool devotional apps you can go to. Church, Bible study. You can do podcasts, self-help books. There's so many positive things. Prayer, intentional prayer. Legacy book. You could teach them, say, I bet you've got a lot of wisdom for everyone in your family. Get them a little notebook. Have them put the name of the people in their lives and say, you can leave one thing to encourage them. What would you write to them? And let them just write a little sentence. And then they build something that helps that spiritual circle, and my life can count. I can have influence and impact on those I love. That's so simple. I want to just mention, jumping down, in the physical circle. Again, I can preach all day about you got to have water, reduce inflammation. Music is a beautiful way to help calm. Music, by the way, takes you to your right brain, okay? Right brain is actually where you live. And if you are a person of faith, that's where you commune with God, is in your right brain. So anytime I can get myself back in my right brain, I'm going to be centered in me. And then that's where I can connect. So music is a beautiful way. Increase movement daily. I loved how Dr. Young, was emphasizing that. There's some others. Yoga is incredible, but do the yin-based yogas, the relaxing kind, not power yoga. Learning how to find safety again in your body. And I know Susan has done incredible things, led classes in this. Because again, if I don't feel safe in my own body, because I think my body's betrayed me with cancer, I've got to reestablish trust with my own body. And so that is a rebuild. Then also, let's see what else I've got. Sleep issues, you've got to address that, managing pain. Weighted blankets, gang, are so comforting for people. It's like that hug. Another somatic, by the way, I know I taught y'all this one. Have a person put their left hand underneath their arm, like for bra strap, and right hand on the shoulder. Just take good breaths. It creates safety in your own skin. And if I don't feel safe, I'm going to go to primitive brain. That's so simple. If they're the person who overthinks, have them one hand on the heart, one hand on their forehead. I just need to calm my mind. Let's just do it together. Let's just calm our mind. Wow. Y'all, I do this with people in my office all the time. They are blown away at how instantly things start to shift. Give your body the support. It works. Looking down, self-havening, VU breathing, grounding. Grounding, like I said, walking out barefoot is so powerful on so many levels. Nature is powerful because we regulate. We're basically positive, negative charged energy in our own little bodies. And so we regulate with what our environment is. Put yourself in a great environment, you start to regulate with it. Self-havening, that's another psychosensory. And what I love about that, on our website, there's a QR code for it. It's so powerful. You can self-haven. Whereas EMDR, you have to have the therapist. That's why I don't like that one as much. This one you can do yourself. And you can do, it's based on touch, forehead, and shoulders and hands. And you can bring the body down. And remember how I said you cannot calm your mind unless you calm your body first. Cannot do it. So this is a calming, and it's positive affirmation. You can do like, I'm safe, my body is healing, I can do this, I can face this. I'm safe, my body is healing, I can do this. Y'all, it works. It works. We are interaction based. So that's self-havening. Somatic touch was what I was showing y'all here. Those are somatic touch techniques. Body scan. If you want to know where it is, Close your eyes and go from top to your head to your toes. Where am I feeling my life? A lot of times you think, oh, it's my shoulders. Oh, it's my neck. Look at that. Explore that. What is my shoulders? Shoulders, by the way, gang, are for bracing. Your shoulders are the first part of your body to brace for impact. Arms, guess what? Boundaries. Back off. When I feel powerless, back off. I was talking to someone, if you felt powerless and you can't, you will lose your voice. No one listens to me, no one trusts me, that's jaw. So I'm going to be working with someone who's had a hard time getting their voice. I'm going to have them start just tiny little increments of opening their jaw. If you ever notice, they have small voices, small ways. So there's something. All this is on the website. Flower essences work with taste. Essential oils work with smell. Your number one alert to danger, gang, is smell. You smell danger before you do any other thing. So I want to influence my smell because it's alerting my body to go to fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Body brain hacks, all on the website, Relational building techniques. This is pretty self-explanatory right there. The main thing is you want, especially as a caregiver, I said the Q-tip, quit taking it personally. They are not in their right mind. They are in their primitive brain. So you've got to recognize that, as we used to say, put on your armor and go in, because that's the reality of what you're working with. But it'll help when you gear up and plan to walk in that way. Listening is the best thing you can do to their concerns. And then, let me see, find a way to connect. These are sort of basic things I think most of y'all already know how to do, but you do need to set boundaries, y'all, when they get reactive. Like when they start getting hyper reactive with you, you need to recognize they're in the primitive, and you've got to help say, you know what? I can tell this is really hard for you right now, so why don't you take a few breaths? I'm going to go work over here a minute and go get a water, whatever, and you help it to de-intensify. So notch it down. You do need to set a boundary because they're not going to be able to set it themselves. The last little area, because Susan sent me the word, I've got to wrap it up, is mirror, validate, and empathize. Mirroring, it is such a gift. So what I hear you saying is, let them talk and then say, well, what I hear you saying is. People need to know that people hear them. Second one, it makes sense what you're saying because people need to know they're not crazy. Well, it makes sense that you're fearful because we don't have the answers. It makes sense that you're stressed because, oh, okay, I'm not crazy. It makes sense. And then that last one is where you really join with them. I could imagine you might be feeling so powerless. You may have really lost hope after that doctor's appointment. You start to empathize with people, they can walk the journey. So I'm going to just pause for 2-3 minutes tops of any questions. Sorry I didn't give you more time on that, but you can sure see me after. But those are some tips, I hope. And like I said, I cannot emphasize enough our website because, and read our blogs. That's what I was trying to say. My husband, daughter, we all write blogs, and so it's very active. It talks about trauma and different things that I think your people or you could benefit from. Any questions? Yes. Those are all good. I'd like cold water immersion, right? See, again, quickly cooling the body. Think about it, inflammation, hot, bringing it down. because again, inflammation turns on my whole immune system. So those are there's so many body interventions we can be doing, we just don't know. I love, if you are on your phone apps, follow the Amen Clinic. Amen Clinic is the brain people. They're very holistic. I love them. Somatic experiencing, that's one of the trainings I'm in. They give tons of great little minute kind of things you can do to help the body. So those are excellent. Anybody? I know, yes.
How do you, once you are diagnosed with cancer, and it seems that every little pain or discomfort you have in your body, it frightens you, and how do you overcome that and just to feel that everything is okay?
That's so common, and that's what's really sad. Her question was, you've got cancer, but now every pain you've got is starting to scare you, and now you're hyper aroused because, could it have traveled to my knee? Could it, and again, that's your mind is overactive, your body is in that. The self-havening technique, I'm safe, getting safety back in the body. And you can't change the body's experience apart from giving it a new experience. So that's why I'm trying to do things like this and this. I'm trying to get. And here's a little quick one too. Like say it was, colon cancer. And you say, man, if it's in there, what do you want to do? What would your body want to do right now? It's like, I want to push it away. I say, okay, well, let me see you do that motion. And I'll have them push it away. I'll go, push it away harder. And part of letting the body complete its action of what it wants to do to protect itself can actually help it bring closure. And if we get closure in the one area, then my mind is not looking for all the others. Also, the hopeful self-journaling helps them gain back control of their thinking, because it's not so much what their body's feeling that's really the problem, it's how they're thinking about what their body's feeling. So you really want to work with that to help them get back into their skin. Well, can't thank y'all enough, and check out the website.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Carla. I do want to mention for our social workers that you will need to turn in your evaluation forms, and we have a new code for you. Aren't you excited? And they will show the code on the screen, hopefully, for those of you who are virtually watching. And the code is capital H, capital C, capital K, capital H, 23. HCKH, all in capital, 23. You will turn that form into the back table. Those of you who are virtual, write the code down and enter it when you complete your online evaluation. So are there any questions about social workers? They can help you in the back with that. If you're virtual, you will have the instructions for that. And you need to make sure you go to that link and you fill out that information. And you will receive credit, and you will need to submit your evaluation for those online within 24 hours from the end of the conference. So that is the social work housekeeping. Any other questions about social work? We have just a couple minutes before we're going to begin our luncheon session. So, yes, Carla? Yes, please.
I really want to get to say this because I think it's so important. When you're going through anything with cancer, we've got to teach people how to grieve. If you can't grieve, you can't move forward. And Healthy people as a way of life have to learn to grieve, because if you don't grieve, you will either go toward the bitter and the angry, the outward, it's danger, or you will shut down and you isolate and withdraw. Healthy people know how to grieve because we have loss every single day. You and I, sitting in this room, we have lost today. And to keep healthy, I want to be able to inspire how to grieve.
Thank you. Great. Appreciate it. Thank you, Carla. See you in a few minutes for the Hope Celebration lunch. Thank you.
All right, y'all, let's pause for just a moment, if you will, where you are. Let's pause, and it's time for our celebration luncheon, and we need to start with the word of prayer, so let's do that. Father, I thank you for every person in this room. I thank you for what they mean to each other. Father, I thank you for this community of support that we feel in this room today. And God, as we heard this morning on the panel, the gratitude exercises are good. And we know that your word even says that the password to get into your gate is thank you. Enter your courts with thanksgiving. So God, we do that just now. We thank you. We thank you for our food. We thank you for all these folks that have spoken to us today. We thank you for this committee that's worked so hard to get this together. We just thank you for the folks that have gotten this food ready for us. And God, we just pray that you would bless it to the nourishment of our bodies. And God, we want to serve you. We want to please you. And God, we love you. And we thank you so much. And again, I thank you for every person in this room. And we make this prayer in the name of your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Let me tell you who we got right here. This is Ty Dennis, and if you don't know Ty, you don't know a good entertainer. Let me tell you, Ty is an alumni of Jackson State University. She's got She's got a bachelor's in music education. She's in graduate school at Belhaven right now. She's a member of our First Baptist Orchestra and the Belhaven Orchestra and probably everything else in the world. Mississippi Symphony, you know, Mississippi Symphony kind of comes after First Baptist Church in Belhaven. But yeah, she is so good at what she does. So help me welcome Ty, and I know you'll be glad you're here. great lady you are. Well, now it's my privilege to introduce our guest speaker for today, Marshall Ramsey. And he probably really doesn't, I mean, people always say you don't need any introduction. You're going to get one because they've written one down for me. But I'm going to tell you, I love Mississippi Today. That's where I get my news, and I appreciate you so much. You know, the place you used to work, I told somebody the other day, I was looking at one of those papers, and I said, you know, the most shocking thing on the front page is the same thing every day. It's the price. But Marshall Ramsey is the editor-at-large for Mississippi Today. He's a two-time Pulitzer Prize finalist, 2002 and 2006, a 2022 Southeastern Emmy winner, and his work is nationally syndicated by Creators Syndicate. His cartoons have appeared in the New York Times, USA Today, and the Clarion Ledger. He's also the author of several successful books, including 3 cartoon collections, 2 short story collections, and the delightful children's book, Banjo's Dream. Marshall is also a longtime friend of the Hope Conference, having donated the artwork for our logo, as well as serving as guest speaker previously in 2007 and 2012. Help me welcome this man who writes just as well as he draws to the stage this morning.
I got to say, following Ty is like following the Beatles. That's kind of, and trust me, I'm not going to sing. We're all survivors in this room, but if I sing, we ain't going to be survivors. Trust me, it's pretty ugly. Before I get into what I'm going to speak about today, I'd like to just talk about how somebody can come into your life and can totally change the direction of your life and where you're going to go. And today, there's a lot of people in here that probably are going to be that way. You're going to meet them, and they're going to help you, and you're going to go in another direction, a better direction, right? Well, back in, I can't even do the math now. It was a long time ago, 1991. I graduated from college and got a job as a high school custodian because, well, I wanted to make sure my dad completely was horrified, and I did a very good job with that, graduating from college and working at a high school. And I worked with a lady named Maggie Hurley. And Maggie Hurley's husband was an Eastern Airline pilot who had lost his job because of the strike. And Maggie, like everything in her life, was a warrior. And she took charge, and she helped keep the family together. And she was amazing to work with. She and I sometimes fought. We laughed. We had a great time. I had a lot of respect for Maggie. One day she said, "How would you like to meet my daughter?" And I said, "Your standards for your daughter are incredibly low. I am not a medical student." But she did introduce me to her daughter. Her daughter had the most beautiful blue eyes I'd ever seen. Maggie is now battling stage 4 breast cancer. And I have everything in my life because of her. Because her daughter is sitting right there, my wife, Amy. So I ask you kindly to say a prayer for Maggie. She's good people. You'd like her. She's a warrior once again, and so's Amy. All right, well, let's see if I can be funny now. Good God. I think the last time I cried was Old Yeller, so it's been a while. So you'll just have to bear with me here for a second. I swear, I'm a Sagittarius, but I swear I was born under the sign of Cancer. My great-grandmother was a breast cancer survivor. My aunt is a breast cancer survivor. My sister is a breast cancer survivor. My mother is a breast cancer survivor. My dad is a bladder cancer survivor. My mom's first cousin died of breast cancer. My doctor said so lovingly, "You're not going to die of a heart attack." In 2001, April 17, 2001, was the day of the Mississippi flag vote. I had been getting death threats throughout the day because of my cartoons. Apparently, people did not like them. I was shocked. At 5:30 in the afternoon, Kenny Barraza called me and said, "Marshall, I don't know how to tell you this, but you have malignant melanoma." And I started laughing. And he said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "Well, I apparently have cancer, but this has been the nicest phone call I've had all day. Thank you very much." The next day, I was sitting at a table just like this with corporate, Gannett Corporate from the Clarion Ledger. I was one of the young up-and-comers. I haven't heard young in a long time. I was one of the young up-and-comers, and I'm sitting at a table with Jerry Mitchell, another coworker, and the vice president of the corporation and the head of news. And Jerry, of course, who is golden, was having a great time chatting with him, and I was chatting with him, and my coworker was terrified because she was sitting with the two highest people in the thing. And we were walking out there, and she said, "Well, how can you be so at ease with these people?" I said, "I have cancer. What can they do to me?" And she said, "Take away your health insurance." And I went, like that. The next day, I was in surgery. I woke up, and I tell this story a lot when I do my normal speaking about how my dad taught me to water ski, and I nearly drowned me because that's how my dad rolled. His methods of water skiing are banned in 7 different countries. But he taught me, like, I had a really bad fall, and he made me grab the rope and get back up because he wanted me to make my story about how I got back up, not how I fell down. Well, imagine in Baptist Hospital, I'm laying in bed. I just had literally a grapefruit size of my back cut out, and I'm on great drugs. I mean, they were incredible. I was dreaming of all kinds of things. And I felt this pressure against my forehead. And I'm thinking, this is a weird side effect of this drug. And I open my eyes, and there's Dave Ramsey standing over me. That's my father, not the guy on the radio. My dad, he's named after my dad. He's my cousin. But that's another story. He has plenty of money and attention. But Dad was poking me in the forehead, not telling me to get out of debt, but to get out of bed. And I'm like, "I just had surgery. What are you talking about?" And he said, "Get up." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because we're going to make your story about how you beat this, not how you had it." And that man got his son up out of bed, and he walked him around the hallways of Baptist Hospital. You see, Dad had knew what he was talking about because he had had bladder cancer the year before. Dad handled it really well. He handled his cancer incredibly well. Was one of my role models. He got up and walked every day and so forth. And I recently had back surgery, and even though Dad has since passed, he died at 81. It was not from cancer. He had kidney failure and dementia, sadly. But he water skied at 78. So yeah, Dad got it done, man. He lived. But that being able to reframe things was a superpower that he gave me, and I struggle with it. I'll be honest with you, I really loved some of the mental aspects of it because, and I don't know about you, I had terrible anxiety after my diagnosis. Now, let me tell you a little bit about malignant melanoma, and I realized that not many people knew much about it because I was an honorary chairman for Relay for Life, and I was very proud to be that because I'm very good at anything that has the word honorary on it, because that does not involve a lot of work, and I'm very good at, not working. And I spoke to another survivor, and they said, "Thank God you just had skin cancer." And I kind of like, "What? No, but no." And I realized it wasn't really that she was being mean, it's just that people didn't understand what was going on. And I just heard the greatest quote earlier today, "Live to give." And I was very fortunate. I had a friend at the Clarion Ledger named Keith Warren. I still do. He just doesn't work at the Clarion Ledger. He's still a friend. He's still alive. That's good. But Keith's father went into the doctor, and he had a very bad melanoma on his back and had not done anything about it and passed away 3 months later. And so Keith wanted to raise awareness. I wanted to raise awareness. And so for 10 years, we did the Run from the Sun, which was an absolutely wonderful race, 5K race that ran past right here. In fact, we made people run up the High Street Hill, which was sadistic and wonderful and fun. But we also had Kenny Barraza, who saved my life, screening people and helping them. And that has been a mission of mine, and it was particularly for a long time, was to be able to help people. I got to speak at this conference, as they mentioned before a couple of times. That was a huge honor. And I don't know, I've been alive 7,791 days since my cancer diagnosis. Yeah, don't ask me how I know that, but I looked it up today just to tell y'all that. I don't want you thinking I sit around and check that every day, but yeah. And I've gotten past to the point where I feel a rib and think it's a tumor. You know, I mean, I've gotten past that aspect of the thing. But the one thing, and I really honestly, I think one of the most important things that I came out of this was the whole concept of hope, right? And I invented this hope thing the first time I did this, and I still believe deeply in it. And there's a book called Hope Rising. It's amazing, and that talks a little bit differently about how you have to have a path and everything. But my version of hope is just break it down into the 4 letters. H, humor, being able to make jokes about things, right? Having some sense of, if you can laugh at the things that drive you crazy, you're a lot better off. I was going into the ocean one day, a lady was staring at my scar. I've got a scar this long on my back. I've had 80 moles removed, right? I once accused Kenny Barraza of writing his name on my back on this. And he once said, I bet you're going to draw a cartoon about this. I said, not as long as you have a knife on my back. No, I'm not going to draw a cartoon about you, ever. You can run naked down 55, and you will get away with no cartoon on that. But this lady's staring at my scar. I'm going into the water, and I'm very self-conscious about this. And I can tell you for a fact that no woman has ever really stared at me. It was just not something that happened to me in my life. And so I was like looking at her, and I was thinking, okay, am I a freak show? And I realized she was looking at my scar, and I pointed at it, and I said, oh, that? Shark attack. And it happened right where your little girls are swimming. She grabbed her kids and ran out of the water. I had 2 choices. I could have been offended, or I could have made a joke. Never underestimate the power of humor and what it can uplift. And it's tough, because if you're in a situation where it really seems dire, it's hard to start cranking jokes. That's just how my family copes, right? That's how my sisters and I cope through my parents being ill. That's how I cope today on many different things, is making really bad jokes. And I hope that you've enjoyed the really bad jokes I've shared with you so far. By the way, and I meant to do this earlier, and sorry that my brain's jumping around. I hit my head on a steel beam earlier last October, so I tend to jump around a little bit. Sean and Teresa Mackey are in the house, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Teresa. The other thing too on the humor thing, and I don't know why I thought of you on the humor thing, but you do have a good sense of humor. Do y'all have cancer heroes? Do you have people that are, that you know that are going through this and so forth? Well, that's where the next letter comes from, is the opportunity to serve, the live for the give part. When you can help other people through that journey that you're on, that's a huge, huge, huge thing. Not just because it helps that other person, which is what obviously the good book tells us we need to be doing anyway, and a lot of times we forget that, at least I do. But it also is a very, very, very good antidepressant and anti-anxiety medicine. When we did the race for 10 years, you know, that was so good to know that I was not helpless to whatever cooties were in my skin cells that were going to kill me at any given moment, right? I felt like I had power again because I was being able to do something to help. And that's where the O is. Teresa, you've done a great job. Sean has, of course, being a caregiver and a husband, has written a wonderful book that really honestly lays it out. And I wish if I had my little time machine, I could go back to 1978 and hand a copy of that to my father, who really struggled being there for my mom during that. 1978, as you can imagine, nobody talked about breast cancer back then. And it was really tough on my mom. My mom struggled anyway, but boy, when she had that was a really tough thing. And I was very young, and it was a very tough moment for me on that too. So the opportunity to serve, I was really glad we were able to do that, and just, you know, become a platform. Obviously, you know, with melanoma, my story is not one of great struggle. Mine's one of early detection, and so I really honestly preach about melanoma. If you know the ABCDs, asymmetry, border, color, diameter, you want to make sure if you see a mole that itches or bleeds, you go see a doctor, right? You get it cut out. Okay, how many of you have ever had a cracked windshield in Mississippi? Yeah, okay, it's like our hidden tax in Mississippi, right? We do that. So what's the first thing you do when you get the crack in your windshield? You go get it fixed, right? Because guess what happens if you don't do it? It spreads and you lose your windshield. I'm here today to tell you to get the mole cut out to save your glass. I said glass, right? So basically melanoma, the earlier you get it cut out, the better your chances of survival. I had one, my very first one was a melanoma in situ. I don't know Latin. I thought in situ meant by a coffin, but in situ means in place. It was 100% curable because I got it caught early. The malignant one, not so much, but guess what? 7,791 days, I'm still here. So obviously something went really well. The next one's P, obviously, is physical well-being, and I think that's a mental connection, too. I don't believe in mental health. I believe that mental health is health. I think it's all connected, and it's very important for you to take care of both of them. I hope you were if you were in this panel before I spoke, you were great. That was some great ideas and some great points. But for me, the physical well-being, I had to take care of myself because I was starting to fall to pieces on that. And I've tried to do that. My weight's gone up and down like a yo-yo for the last 7,791 days, whatever on that. You know, right now I'm on the downward thing. I'm like low tide. You know, I got less face. This is the lady who cuts my hair. I came in, she said, "Oh, you have less face." So that's good. So I've lost some weight. So that's a good thing. I was sitting there watching, they do MPB, they were doing a compilation of my television show, Conversations, and they kept showing my face, and it was going in and out like the tide. So I was like, okay. But I try to stay healthy, because obviously that helps me on the mental front, too. And obviously there are a lot of cancers that depend on, obviously you being in shape and what you eat, and so I try to be careful on that. The last one's E, and of course it's education. Number one, how many of you have ever gone into a doctor's appointment without somebody in there with you, and the doctor sounded, I swear, like Charlie Brown's parents? You know? Wah, 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 wah. Cancer. And so the only thing you hear is cancer. And I don't know, but that's kind of brings the whole, anxiety level to about a Mach 10 at that point. And it's always good to have somebody in there who can actually coolly hear what you're doing. But for me, not knowing what in situ meant that I had to learn a lot about melanoma. And that was really not something I wanted to do, but I became involved with the Melanoma Research Foundation and even ran a marathon. That was fun. That was a great day. I got leg cramps at mile 20, and I basically cussed my way for the next 6.2 because I'd raised all this money and I didn't want to quit, on that. And we get done, and it's in Washington, D.C., so I'm running past Arlington, and I'm seeing all the graves, and I'm thinking, these heroes didn't quit, I can't quit. And so I'm going, and I go up the hill, and there's Amy and my two older boys cheering for me, and that was amazing. And I get the medal, and I fall over because I'm cramping from my ear tips all the way to my toes and all that. And Amy had been texting me all along the way, "Hurry up, we've got a flight to catch." And so, and one great moment, since she's here, I figure if I get divorced, I hope you have a couch I can sleep on. But getting out of Arlington to get to the airport was like getting out of Saigon in 1974 because you couldn't get a cab. And she stood in the middle of the road and cussed a cabbie out because he wasn't going to pick us up, and he got us to the airport. She is a rock star. She's like her mother. If you need anything done, she will get it done. She was great. That was one of the greatest moments ever, being able to do that sort of thing, being able to run. And I did a lot of cartoons, obviously, based on melanoma and skin safety and all that, too. And not to brag about myself, it just was fun to do because I felt like I was helping other people. And that's the big part about the education, is literally you get educated. And I think this isn't part of the hope, but this is, I think, something that you have discovered today. When you're dealing with something like cancer or a major disease, you just can't do it alone. It's too overwhelming. And I think we discovered during the pandemic, we need each other. And we don't need each other in the sense that we're yelling at each other on Facebook. We need each other because of events like this, to where you can meet people that inspire you and lift you. I've always said that angels sometimes come dressed in funny clothing. And I think about the bosses that have messed with me but made me better, or the person who said the random thing that maybe pushed me in a better direction, or I think about Maggie, who literally changed my life by introducing me to her really cute daughter. You don't ever meet that when you're sitting at the house by yourself. Although I will say this, my dog has already texted me 3 times during this asking me where we are. So there is something to be said for having a good pet. But we do need each other, and that's the beauty and the value of this. Look, I know we've got door prizes and a couple other things. I don't want to cut you off short or cut you off early. But I got to say that the speech that I'm giving you today is a lot different than maybe the one I would have given you in 2001 or 2007 or 2012. The one thing I can say about cancer, and this is just from, and I'll tell you, when Mom had it, it was terrifying because I was a little boy and thought I was going to lose my mom. When Dad had it, I was terrified because at that point cancer was a monster because I remembered the beast from when I was a little boy. I got, by the way, shingles during that because I was so stressed out with Dad having it. But the one thing I've learned about cancer is that you truly have to take on and defeat fear. Because I know cancer feeds on sugar, I know it feeds on a lot of things, but it definitely feeds on fear. And you can't be afraid. And that's so much easier for me to get up here and say than it is to do. Because that false evidence appearing real is definitely something you do battle with cancer. The fact is, as I mentioned before, you know how many days I've been alive since that diagnosis? 7,791. I can't believe I remembered that, to be honest with you. I honestly don't know where my car keys are right now. That's why Amy's with me, so she can lead me out to where the car is on that. But I got to say that probably if you asked me to do this speech in 20 more years, I will say the greatest thing is I just lived, and I enjoyed the moment and enjoyed the day. And maybe at the end of the day, that was the gift that cancer gave me. The fact that I had that shot across the bow when I was 33 years old. And now that I'm 55 years old, obviously, and have been given so many years since then to realize. I will leave you with this. When I was in the midst of my anxiety fit and running around, saying, oh my gosh, I had a boo-boo cut off of me that could have killed me, right? I was going around speaking at different relays for life, and I met a man named Jimmy Riley. And Jimmy Riley was a firefighter and a teacher down in McGee, Mississippi. In fact, there's a statue in front of the fire station that looks a lot like Jimmy for a reason. Jimmy, and I forgot which high school it was, but he was on the second floor, looked out a window, saw a tornado coming, got all the students downstairs, and saved their lives. Jimmy was a hero. Jimmy came up to me and he said, hey, I heard you had melanoma. Awesome, I did too. I was like, great, brother. The fist bump before that was cool. That's back when we shook hands and hugged. And Jimmy said, hey, don't worry about it, man. I made it 20 years. You're going to make it. At 22 years, the melanoma came back in his brain. And at 23 years, Jimmy was gone. And I'm not telling you that to depress you because this is the Hope Conference. I'm telling you that I can guarantee you in the 23 years of Jimmy Riley's life that Jimmy Riley lived every single day. And that is my goal from here on out. And I just am so glad to be able to come and speak to you today. I hope this has been fine because honestly, just getting to meet y'all and hear your stories means the world to me. And I hope to be able to get to visit with a few of you before this is over with. But really, honestly, I know you're sitting here right now not only for the meal, but for the door prizes. So I have no illusion to why you're really here. I know that's why you're here, for a matter of fact. So without further ado, I'm going to, and I'm sorry, I would draw for the door prizes, but I'm really not that good at drawing. I'm really not. So that's a dad joke. So there you go.
You're welcome. Don't go anywhere.
I'm not.
You're next.
Okay.
Yeah, before we do the door prizes, we've got a very special prize, a recognition that we want to do. The Hope Conference Planning Committee wants to honor you with the Lighting the Way Award, and Susan Mason's going to do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And look, I think it's neat because you drew that, didn't you?
I did. Yeah.
Look at there. It's on the wall. It's on his plaque. So how about that? Thank you for all you do, Marshall, for the cancer community, not just through the Hope Conference, but promoting skin awareness and sun safety. And thank you for all you do. Why don't you get your wife to stand up?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead and stand up, Amy.
Amy, thank you for getting him here and reminding him where he's parked. Or did you have to drive too?
I will say this, that number one, Amy is like the world's greatest kindergarten through second grade art teacher on the planet. She could teach a penguin to fly. I normally do not make her come to things that I speak to because she has heard my jokes a lot we've been married nearly 30 years, as you can imagine. But there is no finer human being on the planet, and thank you. No, I meant that. I really did. I'm not sucking up at this point because it's not going to do any good. But I will say this, that this means the world to me, and I dedicate it to Maggie. Thank you. Thank you.
All righty. Guess what? It's time for those door prizes. So Marshall Ramsey gets a great statue, and you're fixing to win your own door prizes. Gene, you're going to come do it. Oh, well, that's good.
Good afternoon. It's been such a blessing to be here today with you. My name is Paige Lewis, and I am the volunteer coordinator for Home Care Hospice. And they asked me to present the door prizes today. All right, I'm sorry if I don't pronounce it correctly. McGee Gerthania McGee. And this door prize is from MP3C. All right, the next one is also from MP3C. Mahalia McDonald. Okay, this one is from Mississippi Breast and Cervical Cancer Program, and this is Virginia Hodges. All right, this is from the Jackson Hope Lodge, American Cancer Society, Faye Kitchens. Okay, yeah. Okay, this one is from Humana, Evelyn Tate. All right, it looks like this one is also from MP3C, Janet Davis. Congratulations. Okay. All right. The next one is from Humana, Cindy Sullivan. This one is from, who is it from? Who is it from? Compassus, Kara Smudrix, Kara. All right, come on. All right, this one is from, who's it from? Visiting Angels, Shelley Darwin. All right, there's going to be several from UMMC Cancer Center and Research Institute. Rose Hayes. Rose? Is this also UMC? This one's also UMC. Phoebe Clark. Phoebe Clark. Okay. Sean Mackey has donated one of his awesome books, Pat Molds. Another book from Sean Mackey, Cheryl Irwin. Okay, this is from MP3C, Mary Vaughn. Klein Insurance donated this one, Victoria Sarton. She's deaf. She's over there. Is that all of them? Okay. Another one from UMMC Cancer, Sherry Reeves. Yet another one from UMMC. They've been very generous. Jacqueline Fleming. Okay, this one is from the Cancer Action Network. Alberstein Pickett. Okay, this one is from the Cancer Action Network, Virginia Anglin. St. Dominic's, Lakita Duran. Lakita Duran. She's in the back right there. From Summit Counseling. Summit Counseling, Rosie Harper. Okay, this next one is from Pax Hospice, Jim Molds. Jim Molds. Care, I think that's from, okay, the next one is from Home Instead, Sean Clark. Sean Clark. This next one is from Mississippi Home Care, Susan Johnson. Susan Johnson. Susan Johnson, raise your hand. She may not be here. MP3C, Jimmy Scott. Jimmy Scott in the very back. Okay, Mississippi Home Care, Sarah Wright. Sarah Wright. All right, this one is from Care in Home Hospice, Mary Berry. Mary Berry. The Baptist Cancer Center, Rosemary Bravo. Rosemary Bravo. St. Joseph Hospice, Renee Jones. Renee Jones. And this one is from Home Care Hospice, Cindy Sullivan. Cindy Sullivan. Okay. All right, temp staff. This one's from temp staff, Clementine Cooper. That's a lucky table back there. And Mississippi Home Care, Patricia McKinney. Patricia McKinney. Patricia McKinney, will you raise your hand? Okay, she's back there. Okay, this one is from Salad Station, Tammy Anderson Brown. All right. She's all the way in the back. Tammy, right there you go. Okay, this one is from Lotus Med Spa in Madison, Patricia Terry. Patricia Terry. Did we get all of the door prizes from the vendors? Did we get everyone's door prize? All right, thank y'all so much.
Thank you very much. All right, this is what y'all been waiting on. The last announcement. Thank you. Thank y'all so much for being here today. Whether you're a volunteer, a survivor, a caregiver, whatever you, a healthcare professional, thank you. And thank you to those who've watched virtually. We hope to have this year's conference archived on the website soon. www.hopeconferencejackson.com. www.hopeconferencejackson.com. All one word. Check that website for cancer resources in the area and other related events held throughout the year. Don't forget to fill out those evaluations on your table, and social workers, don't forget to complete your checkout process. Thank y'all again for being here. God bless you. Planning committee members, come over here to this corner right over here, and where there's going to be a quick picture taken.